Well, good evening, everybody. Jay Kolodic here, bringing you two brand new, hot off the presses model kits from Round 2, which owns MPC. These are reissues, actually, of a couple of kits that MPC did circa early 1970s, if I recall correctly. That is the 1/100 scale Vostok rocket and the 1/100 scale Titan IIIC rocket. When MPC originally did these kits almost about 45 years ago, the kits were originally designed that you could build them as either a static display model or as a flying model rocket. The new issues, near as I can tell, have the plastic parts to be able to do them as a flying model rocket, but they've only been released as static display models. So even though you do lose that rocket capability, I think with a little ingenuity you could probably build them as flying model rockets. But that being said, let's see how well these models stack up against what has come from other companies. Let's start with the MPC Titan kit. And this kit, I've been waiting a long time for it to come out. First time I ever saw a MPC Titan was about 20 years ago at an IPMS Nationals. There was a vendor that had the original kit, and I was so tempted to get it, but I didn't have the budget for one at the time. Nice to know that good things come to those who wait. I'll give you a little bit of a history on the Titan launch vehicle. The rocket originally started life as the Titan ICBM, built for America's nuclear deterrent. Starting with the Titan I, the Titan II, which was a more refined version, probably had its most famous use as the launch vehicle for the Gemini spacecraft. One of the reasons why the Air Force developed the Titan after the Atlas is the rocket utilized what is known as hypergolic propellants, meaning the fuel and the oxidizer, when they mixed together, would burn on contact, but they didn't need a spark to light them, so it was possible to store the missile in its silo almost pretty much fully fueled until it was time needed to fire it, and they didn't have to worry about liquid oxygen boiling off, having to top up those tanks periodically. But by the mid-1960s, the Air Force knew that the Titan's life as an ICBM was probably going to be coming to an end reasonably soon, so they proposed the idea of turning the Titan into a space launch missile. They extended the core Titan rocket and put on a pair of large solid rocket boosters to give it a bit more kick, and with it the Titan could launch pretty much anything from a heavy payload into a low Earth orbit to something that could attain higher orbits. Titan IIIs became the workhorse for many years. In the Titan IIIE version, the vehicle in combination with a Centaur upper stage was used to actually launch the Viking spacecraft to the planet Mars and the Voyager probes to the outer planets. After the shuttle Challenger was lost in 1986, the Air Force did a study, had dusted off a proposal that they had to create the Titan IV launch vehicle for heavy payloads, and they basically moved all their Department of Defense heavy reconnaissance satellite payloads over to the Titan IV. Titan IVs are characterized by longer boosters originally designed for the Manned Orbiting Laboratory project, and an extended core and a larger upper stage. The only reason why the Titans are no longer flying is just because of the hypergolic propellant, because hypergolics are very toxic fuels, and even though they can be stored at room temperature, even a little bit is enough to kill a person. So the workhorse Titans have been retired now, but they've left a lasting legacy. But you want to know about the kit, right? Well, as I said, 1/100 scale. The box size is smaller than the original issue, and the box art's completely different. And I don't know who Round 2 contacted to do the box art, but this is incredible. I mean, this is beautiful. I wish they would turn this into a poster, because I'd like to hang one of these on my wall. It's very cool, showing the rocket in its state, flipping it around to the back. We have a nice image of the built-up model, heavy lifter, but you want to look at the contents, don't you? Well, I know you do, so give me a moment and I will crack open the box and show you what's in it. Well, there you go. Cracking open the box, you get one large bag of white parts. You get a smaller bag of clear parts, which includes the nose cone covering the payload and an engine shroud. You also get that same nose cone in the white molded plastic as well. You also get one parts tree of chrome parts. Very nicely done. Straps for the boosters. This is something that goes under the payload fairing. I guess it's a structure that was designed to cut loose Vela nuclear explosion detection satellites. That's my guess anyway. Most Titan payloads were considered classified because they were launched for the Department of Defense. Very nicely done. You also get a very, very, very nice set of decals. I mean, they didn't print decals for all the black striping on the boosters and stuff, but those can be accomplished with paint very easily. But the one main section that's pretty difficult for most modelers to do is the intertank region between stages 1 and 2. These black areas are actual openings, because when a Titan II or a Titan III stages, the exhaust actually goes out the side and helps to separate the upper stage from the lower stage, so you don't have an overpressure. Very nicely done how round 2 has represented that. You also get markings for the upper stage area. You get markings for just above the inner stage. Labeling for this particular vehicle, SLV5. I gotta dig into my archives and find out which vehicle that was. I think it might have been the very first Titan III that was launched out of Canaveral, but I don't know for sure. With a little bit of work, could probably be modified into one of the other Titan launch vehicles without too much of a hassle. Instruction sheet. Basically a reprint of illustrations that the original kit had. You also get nice decal and paint placement guide. On the back, some advertisement talking about the Vostok. Yeah, the 1/200 scale man in space set. And for those that want to add an extra Saturn V, there's also the Saturn V out of the man in space set is coming out separately in 1/200 scale, and that'll be nice. Give you an opportunity to build the Saturn V separately. One thing you could do too is, I hope somebody in the aftermarket does a Skylab shroud. That way, theoretically, one could add one of these to the man in space set. They could do all the boosters and have a Skylab sitting next to a Apollo Saturn V. But I know you still want to find out more about the Titan III. Well, another nice feature that this kit comes with is a booklet. This is just like the original kit. Talks about the differences in orbits, what's inside a typical Titan. These books, as I recall, were written by model rocketry pioneer G. Harry Stein on behalf of MPC. The two companies were working pretty close. That gentleman was working pretty close with MPC in the very late 1960s, and these are nice little fact booklets. This is something you don't normally see on kits these days. I mean, these days you just get a kit, you might get a little bit of history printed on the box, but it's nice to see something like this. Give me a moment, I'm going to crack open the bags and show you what the white parts look like. Well, here's the contents of the main parts bag. Lots and lots and lots of parts. There's probably about 30 here. I can recognize parts for the main solid rocket booster bodies here and here. These are parts for the Titan upper stage. This is a portion for this is the back end of the Titan trans stage. That was the third stage that would kick the satellites out into their proper orbits. Other nice and tiny parts, such as the main tubing and support structure for the engine bells. Here's half of one of the engine bells right here. Pretty cool. Payload shroud. You also get payload shroud, nose cone, and clear as well. It's nice to have it in white and clear. Nose cone tips of the solid rocket boosters here and here. Overall, it looks reasonably accurate. I haven't really seen any decent imagery of what the inside of a Titan looks like, but seems to look pretty accurate based on the research. The model can be destacked to a certain extent for display. Oh yes, dome structures for the tanks on top of the rocket stages. And here's one rather interesting piece. Those of you that are familiar with model rockets will recognize that as like the back end of a nose cone. So I believe this is one of the pieces, if you were going to build this model for flight, you put this on the back of the nose cone in place of the this assembly here, which hooks up the rocket nozzles for the trans stage, and that way you can attach a parachute and a shock cord to it and fly it. Nice to know it's there, even though you'll have to download some instructions somewhere to find out how it fits. Looks like there's another piece here that does something similar. Not bad. I like what I see. From what I've been told, this rocket is pretty good and pretty accurate for a Titan III, with the exception of the diameter of a couple of the sub-assemblies. Gentlemen I talked to that had familiarity with this kit said that the rocket boosters were the proper diameter for 1/100 scale, but that the core stage was actually a little bit under scale. Well, turns out that's not quite right, because I checked the sizes, and it turns out that the boosters are actually a little undersized compared to the main stage, when in reality the booster and main stage diameters should be exactly the same, 10 feet in diameter. But once the model is built, you're not really going to see that. There's not really that much of a size difference. Lengthwise, I think everything does scale out based on everything I've read. MPC was doing a pretty good job with these kits back then, and I don't doubt them. And like I said, once it's built, it will definitely look like a Titan III. Here we have the clear parts tree. Nose cone payload fairing molded in clear, and this boat tail section. I believe the reason why the Titan III had a boat tail section when the Titan II did not had to do with the proximity of the solid rocket boosters. There was probably some concern that heat coming off of those might cause damage, so they probably put this boat tail fairing down there to clean up the aerodynamics and also probably give a little bit of heat protection to the engine nozzles. It is nice that MPC did mold this in clear, so that if you want to, you can actually display all that intricate pipework on the Titan engine bells. To my knowledge, a Titan II and a Titan III, the engine bell structure is the same between the two of them, so if one wanted to, a modeler should be able to turn one into a Titan II, and hopefully we might get some enterprising resin producer or 3D parts producer to make a Gemini capsule for the top, because one version of a Titan III I would love to do would be the the Titan III manned orbiting laboratory version, either the version as it actually flew in mock-up stage, or also do one with the longer rocket boosters as was proposed to look when it was going to fly. That would be nice to see. Plus also maybe convert one down to a Gemini Titan in 1/100 scale. Very, very nice. Let's take another look at the decal sheet. Like I said, I'm very impressed with what round 2 has done with this. You got that intertank structure, you got the big United States military insignia, you got the gold areas represented nice not having to paint that. And this checkerboard structure right here, which is on the trans stage area, very, very nicely done. I commend them for finding the research to be able to do that. Well, here we have the Vostok rocket. Same presentation, same box, again smaller than the original issue. Very nice presentation. Box art shows that you can build it as either the Vostok launcher or a Sputnik launcher. Technically the Sputnik launcher is for Sputnik 2, the rocket that launched Laika the dog. Dog that didn't stay alive very, very long, turns out. The rocket itself, the R7 Sapwood, NATO codename Sapwood, is still used today as a booster for the Soyuz launchers, so hopefully an aftermarket vendor will actually do either a Voskhod or a Soyuz upper stage. Could either be Soyuz, Soyuz TM, TMA, whatever. I would like to see one done. Detail on this rocket looks very, very good. But don't take my word for it. Let me just open it up and see what you got in the kit. Well, here you see the parts. Lots and lots and lots of parts. Wow, I'm impressed. At a glance, I mean, you got the boosters here, main core section here, part of the nose cone fairing. Lots of little tiny rocket nozzles. And there's a lot of parts here. I know you're not going to use all the parts for one build. So plenty of greeblies left over for science fiction projects. One thing I find really interesting is this kit actually has two, not one, but two sections with the engine nozzles. One simplified state, one with more detail. I believe this particular one was intended for the flying version of the rocket. Another thing that I found, oversized fins. These are definitely designed for the flying version of the rocket as well. To put on in place of the original fins, because the original Vostok fins, I mean, they're almost put on as an afterthought. Lots of rocket thrusters down here. Parts for the Vostok capsule. Here's like the ring of the little tanks as well. Other interesting piece. This is this looks like a boat tail section, and it's got a launch lug on it, obviously, for somebody that does want to build the model for flying. But as I said, the instructions, just like on the Titan, don't show you what you got to do to build this to fly it. You should be able to find those online to download. If they haven't been uploaded to the web already, I'm sure somebody will in the not too distant future. Very impressive. Scaling wise, one thing I like about the boosters, they do seem to have the right shape to them. The only other styrene Vostok rocket we had for many years was the one done by Airfix, and the boosters were a little anemic. There may be some single bit errors on this kit, because when it was released, the only Vostok that anybody had seen up close, rocket-wise, was the one that was unveiled at, I believe, the Paris Air Show. It was accurate, but a lot of questions as to how good the scaling data would have been. Russians, as I recall, were not exactly very forthcoming on it, so it was probably a bit of a guesswork to determine whether any dimensions anybody got from pictures of that thing were accurate. But it does look like MPC back then did their homework, so I can tell they threw a lot of resources into this kit, and it should build into an outstanding model. Well, here we go. Close up of some of the other parts. Clear section of the Vostok capsule shroud, so that you can actually paint up the Vostok and show it on the inside without having to cover up all that nice detail. Very nicely done. And then these are, I'm not sure what the back piece is for, but this piece here is the tip of the nose cone for the Sputnik version. As I said, it's for Sputnik 2, not Sputnik 1, because you can see on the chrome tree, you can see the top of the little pressurized capsule that Leica the dog was kept in. The dog made it into orbit safe, but apparently died of heat exhaustion after a few orbits, so it did not last a long time like the Russians said. They didn't reveal that that Leica died somewhat prematurely for several decades. Decal sheet, Soviet flag, CCCP, Vostok written in Cyrillic. In actuality, the Vostok boosters were very minimally painted. They were kind of painted in a uniform, almost like Euro 1 dark gray. The only time you ever saw markings like this was on the rocket that was at the Paris Air Show. It's now at like a space pavilion in Moscow, I believe, sitting on a pylon. It is nice that the decals are included, though. If you do want to do a Vostok in a configuration more like it actually was, Newware has released a sheet in 1/100 scale. You can order that sheet from culttvman.com or from any other vendor that carries space decals. I picked up one of those sheets. It's a very good sheet. I intend to use it. I just have to think about whether I want to do the rocket either all gray or if I want to do it white. The white came from frost on the rocket at time of launch. And the book they give you a reprint of the book. Here it is painted. Here's the Vostok painted in white as I looked at the pavilion. Yeah, pretty good dimensions of the booster. Again, G. Stein, I believe, did the writing for this and did a pretty good job for it, I think. Instruction sheet. Not bad. I like this. Remove. So apparently that part is used. You just take it off because you're not going to fly the model. Although some of you out there may want to do that. May want to fly the model. From what I understand, the models, if you build them as flying replicas, did fly pretty well, but usually when they hit the ground, they would not survive too many launches. So just be careful if you're going to do that. And also, you'll probably have to add a little bit of nose weight as well. Well, so there you have it. Two first-class kits of a couple very important space launchers in the early space race period. Lots of potential to build these up into some pretty fine-looking replicas out of the box, or, like I said, Titan III, you can use it as a basis for a lot of things. Vostok, Sputnik, Vostok, or if somebody does Soyuz upper stage, I'd really, really be happy. That way I can build all those really cool Soyuz launchers I want to do. And let me tell you, the Vostok is a big rocket. An Atlas missile only came up about 3/4 of the length. There's a reason why this rocket is still used to this day. Soviets designed it. The Soviets, Sergei Korolev designed a very, very nice booster here. But yeah, I highly recommend getting these kits when they become available in your area. I got mine at Hobbytown. We actually had a distributor who got them in very, very quick. Price for them is $34.99 each, retail. I paid about $32 for mine at the local Hobbytown. Another thing I'll mention too, Made in the USA. Both these model kits are manufactured within the US. I highly recommend going out and getting them. Well, until next time, this is Jay Kolodek. Thank you for watching.